What's up, everybody? We are back with another epic collection review. This is the Incredible Hulk Crisis on Counter-Earth. I'm very excited about this because we're getting into Hulk material that really hasn't seen a ton in reprints. This has been done in Marvel Masterworks, but we're getting into Hulk material that most people really haven't read before. And I loved it. I'm excited. So I'll spoil that in advance. This is 1972 to 1974 Marvel. It comprises issues 157 through 178, which means the next volume, which will be volume 7, we'll get into everybody's favorite, which is Wolverine's origin, as you recall, in the 180s there. Good stuff. All right, so this is all drawn by Herb Trimpe. I think there's a couple different fill-in artists at some point, but you get very consistent Hulk. He was drawing volume 5, and I think volume 4 also. So this has been an artist who's been on for a long time, but the writers kind of changed throughout this, and it does change the tone of things. Archie Goodwin starts out right here, and we have the Hulk coming out of a tunnel where he was in the micro universe in the last volume with his Jarella, who he really loves. And he's back on the run again. Betty thinks he's dead. She's getting with, what's his name? Why am I blanking on the name? Betty's getting with that other guy in the military. I'll come up with the name eventually. If I don't, leave it in the comments and I'll remember it. Of course, you know, the leader is, of course, setting up a new plan, and Hulk's got a buddy at this point who is a young black kid. He replaces Rick Jones. Now, Rick Jones, I think, went to go help with Captain America and then got in with Captain Marvel by this point, and so Hulk needs another buddy to kind of help him out. So this kid always hangs around, and Hulk kind of trusts him, and then he calms him down, so he's Bruce Banner again. We got the Rhino going up against the Hulk. Very classic battle. The Rhino and the Hulk battle quite a lot, but of course this is under the leader's tutelage, and so there's going to be a big problem through all of this. All right, and of course Thunderbolt Ross and Betty have their deal, and they're having a little chat because Ross really doesn't want the Hulk to be back alive, and so he tries to hide it from Betty through all this. Now, the Hulk and Rhino end up on this rocket, and they end up on Counter-Earth, which is like the High Evolutionaries' other Earth, which is a ridiculous thing, but it's another Earth that's just across, in orbit, all the way across the solar system, and it's got all of the High Evolutionaries constructs, and none of the heroes really became superheroes in this universe, so everybody's just kind of normal people, and so the Hulk shocks everybody from his existence. The Rhino has a battle through all this, and there's some like resistance going on from the High Evolutionaries folk, and there's a big fight through all this. Now you think, you know, that's just a one-off thing as they leave the planet once again. I gotta hurry a little through this, so this is going to be a 30-minute video. There's a lot that goes on in this. Like, you got to give it to him. Like, they really pack a lot of story into this. He gets back, fights the Abomination. And next, he goes to Niagara Falls, where Betty's going to be on her honeymoon. And if there's a lot of angst with Bruce Banner, as he's dealing with the Betty's... Major Talbot. I found it. There it is. That's the guy's name. He was against the Hulk in the early volumes and got closer with Betty over the course of things. Betty thinks Bruce is dead, and so she finally relents to his advances. And Hulk fights Tiger Shark in the middle of this, but they don't actually cross paths. They come close, but don't cross paths. This is an interesting one, and this is a crossover with the Beast. And the Beast during this time, X-Men's really kind of dead during this time. The Beast has been starring in Amazing Adventures and has actually turned into his actual Beast form from his original Hank McCoy form at this point. And he actually wears a mask to make him look human. It's a very bizarre thing. He gets called into this sort of deal where, what's his name? Who is this? This is one of the other X-Men. The Mimic is like having this like power crisis, and the Hulk and the Beast end up fighting a little bit, but the power crisis is averted. That was a weird story. Didn't quite fit. I feel like we're into Steve Englehart's work right now, and I loved Steve Englehart's writing. This was one of my favorite Hulk runs that I've read so far, I gotta say. Hulk goes up north. He fights the Wendigo. The Wendigo, of course, becomes a big part of the Wolverine origin, but this is an early adventure with that. And very interesting what happens with that. And Steve Englehart starts developing these villains at this point himself. This one's called the Gremlin. And they all kind of start to look kind of weird. They got weird heads, like the leader, but they're all kind of their own thing. And the Gremlin has his own underground base. And what happens is Thunderbolt Ross gets captured and then taken by the commie Russians. Oh, no. So during the Hulk's escape here. And the Hulk always goes from one spot to another. I do love Herb Trimp's art. It's very on the cartoony side compared to, like, Buscema. It doesn't have that, like, Kirby flair to it. But it's just consistent. It's just consistent all the way around. The Hulk always looks like the Hulk. As you see now the Hulk's underwater. And even though the Gremlin looked exactly like this is a different character who's completely unrelated. He's even got the same coloring as the Gremlin. But I guess they're just banking on you not really reading these back-to-back. Even though they are back-to-back issues. Hulk's in this underwater, like, thing where there's these underwater creatures from this Captain Omen. Very cool design of this. Look at this. It's pretty sweet. And he, of course, has to escape. Like normal. Lots of escaping. This is a two-parter, so he's still in here in the second part. In the background of this story, Betty thinks that Major Talbot is about to go on a mission to rescue the General Thunderbolt Ross from the commies. And here is Aquan. This is a pretty neat design, too. This one looks a little different than the others. He's still got that kind of round head, though, you know? I don't know what's up with the round heads. But good knockdown, drag-out fight with the Hulk. Lots of those throughout the course of this. And the Hulk finally gets out of there. All right. We get some more. We get a big energy being that Hulk and Hawkeye team up to fight. And then Modak comes back. Yes. It's been a while since I've seen Modak, and that makes me happy. Modak ends up in this whole deal. Talbot is actually captured by the Russians at this point. Everybody thinks he's dead. Betty kind of flips out because now she's lost both the men in her life. And she starts flipping out at her father. She gets more melodramatic as we get through this stuff. Modak, there he is. Modak builds this giant robot thing to fight the Hulk, and it's pretty fun. He ends up capturing Betty. Great stuff. This is really cool stuff. Oh, this is great. And he turns Betty into this, like, this thing called the Harpy. And I think that's hilarious, turning a woman into the Harpy. Oh, man, that's stuff you couldn't do in modern comics, right? That's why it's great. I love it. You know, lots of women turn into the Harpy, if you know. Okay, I'll stop that line of thinking right now. All right, and eventually she gets turned and then ends up turning back. I'm going a little too long on this still. Trying to make this as fast as I possibly can. And they end up flying away to this city in the clouds, which is interesting. And he ends up fighting the Bi-Beast, who's Bi-Beast because he's got two heads that are connected in a weird way. Not in a normal two-headed way. Very cool design again. Very different. Oh, pardon me. All right. And they blow up that city and end up falling to the ground on some weird desert island. Hulk saves Betty even though she falls all the way from the sky. I don't know how physically that happens, but it does. And there's these weird monsters on this island. And Betty, like, keeps flipping out because she's like, oh, Hulk's alive. She kind of is realizing he's back. And she ends up being chased by these monsters. And the Hulk kind of deals with that, and she gets rescued. And Hulk tags along on the ship/helicopter. He goes back to the base, and at the Hulkbuster base, the Abomination and the Rhino show up to team up against the Hulk. And Ross is trying to actually work with the Abomination to get the Hulk captured. And they're going to set off a gamma bomb on the base to stop the Hulk. And they finally got him captured once again. It's actually been a long time since the Hulk's been captured at this Hulkbuster base. And the Juggernaut shows up. He just kind of shows up. And the Juggernaut's like, let's bust out together. And nothing can stop the Hulk and the Juggernaut, of course. And so they have a little bit of a fight over things, but the Juggernaut takes off. Or actually, I guess the Hulk pounds him a little bit, and Hulk takes off. But easy come, easy go. We're back to kind of the status quo again, because Betty knows the Hulk's alive. Thunderbolt Ross is after the Hulk. and he blames the Hulk for the destruction of the base. There's this new character who shows up because Ross has been such a failure at taking down the Hulk. They're saying, maybe you've aged out and we need to actually do this fight now ourselves. What's going on here? This is Roy Thomas has taken over the writing. Where did he? I think he took it over maybe an issue ago. I've been a vocal, not big fan of Roy Thomas's writing. He overwrites compared to others. Tony Isabella was actually doing it in here. There's been a couple fill-in artists after Englehart leaves the book, or fill-in writers. Herb Trimp keeps doing the whole thing. Roy Thomas starts on it here, and I believe he closes things out. And it slows the pace down big time. I'd say Englehart did a lot more weird stuff with things, and this goes back into kind of a Hulk status quo of Hulk versus the army/government with some villains thrown in for a second. Now, this one is interesting. Hulk fights the Cobalt Man, who shows up, and he's irradiated himself in a weird suit. And he's trying to get unlimited power. And this is a 2-issue deal with that. Here, Conway actually does the script now, while Roy Thomas does the plot, which I like a little bit better. I think it works a little bit better in general. And eventually we're going to get into a deal where the Hulk, he gets shot off into the sky in a bomb and ends up in the Inhumans land, which he was in his first annual back in the day. We're back into Roy Thomas writing again. So it's a return to that as he fights the Inhumans and fights them off. There's misunderstandings between our heroes, of course. And he gets taken into this rocket that the Inhumans were building to, they were going to go to Counter-Earth themselves, which ties back to that issue way earlier in the volume. And really cool. I love it when comics tie in, little things one much late. But the Hulk ends up in this Counter-Earth deal, and we end up with this whole Counter-Earth story where there's this insurgency going on, and the president's kind of odd, and Adam Warlock is there. I haven't been reading Warlock, so maybe this happened within the Warlock book too. But Warlock's been locked up by the Man Beast, and he's actually their president now, and he kicks off this civil war of Counter-Earth. Now Bruce Banner is kind of just caught in the middle of all this right here, and eventually smashes his way out. But you get some interesting characters through this. There's this reporter who's very Clark Kent-like, and a reporter who's very Lois Lane-like, kind of looking into things here. And Adam Warlock starts his little resistance group. Here's a Last Supper kind of thing with Adam Warlock, and of course there's a betrayer. It's pretty obvious what was going down there. But it's super fun. And eventually, of course, Adam Warlock frees himself, even though he, quotes, dies and comes back to life. That's why there was a Last Supper. And the Hulk gets really mad and, of course, smashes things up. The war heats up. It's actually done, this war is kind of done just in dialogue, as you just kind of see some weapons of war between things. And eventually, of course, the bad guy gets defeated. Warlock is off. He's going back off into space, just like Jesus ascended. I mean, it was very, very obvious. Their allegory through this was not subtle at all, but that's comics for you, right? And then the Hulk is there still in that Counter-Earth, which I guess we'll find out how he gets back in the next volume. Good stuff. I loved this. This is absolutely fun. I love the Hulk volume in general. The Hulk's just been one of those titles that really have surprised me all the way around with how good it is. The art's super consistent through this. I think the Roy Thomas stuff slows down a little bit, but it's all over the map storytelling-wise, and that's a lot of fun to read in an Epic collection. 9 out of 10 overall. Good stuff. All right. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.